Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interview by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us. If you don't know Core, we're an international recruitment company. We specialize as mid to senior level for exec and non-executive positions. And we're doing this interview series to inject some positivity into the sector. So we've got lots of interviews and articles from all over the world, which are on our website, www.corerecruitment.com. So feel free to watch them, get inspired, or share them with other people. Now, I'm very lucky to be today to be joined by Martin Williams, never dull, always better dressed than me at every event I see him at, a fellow lover of the brand Etro. If you don't know Etro, you've not lived and you need to get on board with it. It's fabulous, fabulous Italian brand. And the quote that I'm going to open with is Sod the vegans. Was this you? Was it somebody that works there? Were these words that were put in your mouth? And what's
Sure.
your actual thoughts on vegans, Martin? Come on.
I thought you were talking about a positive podcast, Christian. I'm not sure what I said there, but I did back in 2016. I think there was union strikes going on, and train strikes and tube strikes were costing my business 20 grand every time they were on strike, so 20 grand a day. And so we did a campaign called "Fuck the Pig-Headed Unions," because Boris Johnson had said it. If you make it, despite the tube strikes, you'll get a pig's head croquette or duck salad. Actually, it was duck the pig-headed unions because I wouldn't have been so crude as to say the other word. And so it's duck the pig-headed unions. If you make it into M today, despite the tube strikes and train strikes, we'll give you a free duck salad or pig's head croquette. And um, and actually, it resulted in me getting death threats. So it was the unions went mental. They crashed my open table system with booking fake bookings for Bob Crow and Margaret Thatcher. My Facebook went mad. They were like smashing his windows. They were doing an anti-capitalism march, and they were gonna, and they were literally like, "Let's kill him off." So which was quite scary. Being an entrepreneur is very scary when you're always fighting the balance of profitability and failure. So to add in the additional stress and sleepless nights that come with, it was even Australian unions giving out death threats, was quite terrifying. So I never bothered with antagonizing the RMC again after that. It was a good lesson in life. But, and I must apologize if I've upset the vegans. Well, I think where it comes from is where it possibly came from was with Chop House and Tavern, our new brand or our reimagination of Sir Terence's brand. We have an amazing beef trolley going round, and there's various cuts filled with ethical butcher meats. And it's genuinely a showcase for our regeneratively farmed, best quality beef I believe you can get in the UK. And the team are amazing with it. But there's always somebody who's like, but won't the vegans be offended? Won't somebody be offended? There's always somebody to offend. I think if you've got a product that you can be really proud of and a brand you can be really proud of, and it's got amazing DNA behind it, that product should be showcased. And there will always be somebody who's not happy. There's people who are not happy when you're drinking Krug in a restaurant or fine Burgundy or Bordeaux. So you can't please everyone all the time. And if you've got something where the hero product is this amazing quality of meat, you should be proud to trot it around your restaurant in a cool trolley that adds some theatre and experience to the dining experience.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And it looks incredible as well. I mean, I guess to get it started off, like Evolv Collection, maybe having kind of like a bit of an overview of that would be a great place to start. And one of the things that I love that you're doing at the moment is taking it back. I believe that you've got Conrad agency like actually back involved in the design again, which feels like going back to a little bit to the roots of the business. Can you talk us through what you're doing there?
So, for everyone who doesn't know, who isn't as old as you, Krishnan, in about the 90s, Sir Terence Conrad was the god of hospitality in London and the world. So, he had restaurants all over the world, from Tokyo to New York. But in London, for those of us who were in the sector, there was probably eight like grand dam, amazing dining rooms that everybody aspired to go to. And they were full of amazing chefs, amazing quality hospitality. Staff were dressed in Jasper Conran, his son's uniforms. And every one of these restaurants had like great sweeping staircases, cigarette girls, fruits de mer counters. It was like the epitome of like grand dining. And and we were all inspired by it. So my first ever restaurant experience was in Mezzo, which was then became Floridita and 100 Wardour Street. And it was just a eureka moment of like, wow, this is what London dining's about. Quaglino's came not long
Mm.
after that. And again, a very similar experience. Sartoria, the same. Pont de la Tour, I couldn't afford to go to, but I went to Butler's Wharf Chop House next door because I could afford that. So it was a great inspiration, and every one of it, and we're very privileged because Sir Terence sadly passed away, but he left 2 or 3 books. And when I joined, when I decided I came to London to study, and then I did different thing. And then 3 years into it, I was like, no, I really love restaurants. I want to be a restaurateur. And my wife at that point, this was the year 2000, gave me a book, which was Sir Terence Conrad's restaurant book. And it talked about his inspirations and the details of restaurants. And then he wrote another book, which was the A to Z of Conrad, which was from Alcazar to Zinc, which were all his brands. So his brand DNA lives on through these books. And actually, over the last 10, 20 years, in my opinion, that those brands got diluted. So first of all, it's a privilege to be part of Sir Terence's legacy and to take that to the next chapter. The second part is you've got all of his inspiration that comes. So with Chop House, for example, he researched the first font that was ever created in the city of London, and that was the Chop House logo. And we've gone back to that, and he had his design team. His design team designed the restaurants with different inspirations, which were global inspirations. And those have sort of been forgotten. So we've revisited all of those little details, which make an amazing restaurant in my book, which has got substance, brand DNA, authenticity, and a really rich sort of authenticity, for want of a better word. And I think you notice that it's a clear difference between a restaurant where people like to have their Instagram taken and a restaurant which has amazing substance, quality of ingredients, thought behind the menu, genuine inspirations, etc. And that's what we've done. So I re-engaged with the Conrad family. Sebastian particularly was great. Lady Conrad, Sophie Conrad. I've had lunch with them and dinner with them a few times. We're talking to Design Museum about a collaboration of the original Conrad ashtrays, which Sebastian created, and which everyone will know, like something like 125,000 Quaglino's ashtrays went missing one year. It was like the thing to have in London. It's a status symbol. So we're gonna look at what we can do with that, and Conrad and Partners is an agency that we're talking to about some of our new projects.
That's amazing. Now you are just about 12 months in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like, and I mean, there's been acquisitions, there's been restaurant openings, there's been rebrands, there's been reshaping. I mean, can you just talk us through that first 12 months and what that's been like?
I mean, very simply, when I joined, there was 27 restaurants and 27 brands. And when I say brands, some of them were address names, so they weren't really a brand, but let's go with that. Today, we have 31 restaurants, about to be 32, and we have 17 brands. So what we did was categorize the restaurants into our Michelin dining options, heritage brands, which will always be one-offs, and then powerhouse brands, which will be, and we converted some of the address names into those powerhouse brands. So today we had one Sartoria a year ago, and now we've got 3, arguably 4. We had 2 chop houses, now we have 4, and an additional 3 taverns in the pipeline. The Stories collection came from 20 stories in Manchester, and it's now 3 stories. So you have 20, 24, and 14 in London, and so on. So we've managed to really identify what are growth brands, what are heritage brands, which should always stay very special. Bluebird, again, is another powerhouse brand. We've created the Bluebird's Members Club that's got hundreds of members now. It's generating 6 figures for us. It's engaging a really high net worth, brilliant audience. And we've got Bluebird in the city. We've been doing Bluebird at Silverstone. We're looking at opportunities for that in America. So there's huge opportunities for these amazing brands, which we're privileged to be custodians of.
Absolutely. Now, as part of running this series, you've been speaking to lots of different private equity company and like, kind of like investors, that side of things, and standardization in terms of like having 200 pizza restaurants or 200 of exactly the same format and rolling it out seems to be a bit of a favorite of theirs. You seem to be moving in a slightly different direction. Can you tell us a bit about the approach you're going to have for the next 4 years of the plan?
I mean, there's definitely a difference between casual dining and premium dining. And casual dining is all, it is nothing wrong with it. I'm a big fan and I've worked in some great casual dining groups, but it's about consistency and a slight cut and paste where if you go anywhere all over the UK or even abroad, if you go to that brand, you're guaranteed consistent standards and a consistent quality. But that's impossible to do that, but be premium. So when it comes to premium, and that's partially because of scarcity of ingredients. For example, with Ethical Butcher, going back to Chop House and Tavern, we're struggling to get enough meat because we know that it's going to be incredibly popular, but it's organically farmed, regeneratively farmed. It's only X amount of heads of cattle that are currently on the pampas or on the plains of Salisbury and being fed in like fauna, flora, flowers, different plants, different grasses. There's only so many of those cattle that are actually going through the process. So that's very different to, let's say, a coat where you're going, okay, we know what we're getting there, and there's 100 of them, or there was 100 of them. But with premium dining, I think it needs to represent the personality of the guests, the personality of the location, so the geography of the location, and also like the uniqueness of the space, the design. So there's so much more to it beyond, and the people working in it. So there's so much more to it than just consistency. Yes, that you need to be consistent, and that's a given. But then there's light and shade and color and warmth, and there's everything that just makes a restaurant special in premium dining. So you can't lose that, otherwise you become a chain. So it's a very different journey, but the next few years, as I say, we've identified the markets which are US, UAE, the UK, Europe, where we know that we've got great potential for amazing brands. We're building a team which is best in class in hospitality, and we've made huge steps forward in that. We're creating a culture in our people, which is, again, with Gaucho and M, as you know, we achieved 100 best places to work in the UK in Sunday Times list. Sadly, they've lost it since, but it was a huge achievement. It was one of my greatest achievements. So I was very proud of it, and we're determined to do the same with Evolv. And that's about engagement, giving people a purpose, giving them career development plans, sense of value, real pride in what they're offering, pride in working in a business which is successful.
Absolutely. Now, when you're looking at doing like where do you even start with this when you've got that many brands, that many possible locations, that many models in terms of JV franchise? What do you think the easiest, not the easiest, but like because you're never going to do the easy thing, are you? But like, what do you think kind of like the most obvious option is for you in terms of brand and location to go first?
Well, obviously, I've got the experience in the UK of what worked and what didn't with Gaucho, and we had 24 restaurants across the UK. So I know which cities will work. We're looking at Manchester particularly because we've got probably the most successful restaurant in Manchester currently, with 20 stories. And there's no reason why we couldn't have another 2 or 3 restaurants in that city. The same with Birmingham. And also, we know that Edinburgh would be great, Glasgow's successful, Liverpool would be successful. So with that, you're going, okay, Chop House would work. It's a more premium product than steak restaurants. It's much more beyond steak, although I've been harping on about the quality of the beef. But that's a menu which is just phenomenal. It's diverse. It's equally female friendly as it is male friendly. It's not as vegan friendly, but there are options. And it's got great potential. It takes premium meat dining certainly to a completely different level that the UK's enjoyed. I think actually, if you look at the sort of successful brands within that, they become quite tired and stale in look and feel, and offering. It hasn't changed over the last decade. So we've been incredibly successful. We're 70% up on prior year, when it was a normal steak restaurant, to what we're doing with Chop House and Tavern in Liverpool Street. Equally, that brand success is in Bluebird, where we opened Bluebird City, we're over 30% more busy than we were previously when it was branded a different way. We've just opened Sartoria in Liverpool Street, which again is doing double the turnover than it used to as Fish Market. So this is clearly people identify with brands. They understand quality of those brands, the aspiration, the heritage, and as we continue to grow, we'll be playing on that. I mean, again, like all of these brands were born in London, created by a knight of the realm. Frequently diners are royalty, other knights of the realm. I mean, Bluebird was named after Sir Donald Campbell's Bluebird car and boats, which broke the land speed record. So again, you've got such an amazing Bluebird
Heritage.
heritage that is very much admired, particularly internationally. And that's a USP that we're privileged to have, and very few brands or UK companies, if they are expanding internationally, have. And equally, we've got the success of the US already, where we've got two amazingly successful
Mm.
restaurants. It's funny, you hear about the restaurants moving over there now, and I've offered to help them in any way we can. But we've got two restaurants that have been there for over a decade, and we're about to add a third tavern in there, and looking at two more opportunities. So yeah, we've established ourselves as an international restaurant group already. It's not actually so, and we understand that market incredibly well and the laws and regulations of trading in America. So it gives us a great platform for growth.
So pivoting slightly in terms of your journey and your leadership journey and your entrepreneurship journey, kind of like especially, you've always had the courage of your conviction, some would say balls of steel, when it comes to your decision making and your follow through and owning your successes, but also owning your failures as well. Where does this come from? Like, was this inherent? Did it come from your parents? Was it like, what were you doing before restaurants?
It's probably just a sort of sense of moral responsibility. I think I think as an entrepreneur, you certainly realize that, and this was so for those of you who don't know, I basically worked in a couple of businesses. So Wok ZZ, Christopher's in Covent Garden. Then in 2004, I joined Gaucho as a GM, worked my way up to MD and left in 2014. Then I went on an entrepreneurial journey, created M. We opened 3 restaurants. And in 2018, we did a reverse takeover of Gaucho and we merged the 2 companies. And then from 18 to 24, I was CEO. But that 2014 to 2018 journey was like by far the hardest. And what you learned there very quickly was you can't overshare information. Like you're living in fear of cash flow, always working capital challenges. But if you overshare those and go, actually, in 2 months, we haven't got any money, everybody wrongly sort of is in fear of job security, and they don't deserve to be that, right? You've decided to go alone, you've decided to raise the money. It's your responsibility. Success will be rewarded to you, but equally the fear of failure needs to be kept internalized because nobody knows the solutions, and you will always find solutions, or I've managed to always find solutions. But so you learn that sense of responsibility, and it weighs quite heavily that on your shoulders, but it's a great thing as well. It's a privilege to be able to take people on a journey with you. At the same time, you owe them in my view, you owe anybody who works for you a vision, a strategy of how you're going to get that level of success, pride in what you're trying to achieve, aspiration. Like I always say, like whether you work with me for 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, 16 years, I want you to look back 10 years on and go, that was an amazing period of time. Like I was my best self there. My peers brought out the best in me. It was an amazing environment when we achieved more than anybody else in the sector. So there's probably a competitive element in there as well, Christian. I'm one of 4 boys. I was the youngest boy, and my parents stupidly encouraged us to competition in siblings. So 2 of us are Sunderland fans, 2 are Newcastle fans. We were always fighting and trying to beat each other in races and whatever. So I think that's probably part of my DNA if you're doing a psychoanalysis. But but I really want to be proud of this chapter of my life and the last 20 years of my life. And I want everybody who comes on that journey with me to feel the same.
Absolutely. Now, just as an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur can be quite a solitary thing, and especially when you've got all that stress and all that pressure, and multiple moving parts, and investors, and openings, and brands, and all of these things to kind of think and worry about, how do you compartmentalize? What do you do to relax? What do you do to kind of stay sane, if you are sane?
I mean, I worked 70, 80 hours a week, got up at 5 in the morning, went to bed at 11, worked 6 days a week, often 7 for 5 years. So I can't pretend that I had a great work-life balance, but I achieved a lot. And I think it's important. The best thing I ever did was buy a dog. And for an hour every morning, I was walking with my Labradoodle with no music on, just thinking. And I came up with great ideas. And then in those days, I had a thing about bathing. So I'd have a big bath in the morning as well. So basically, you had about an hour and a half of meditation before you started work, or you'd done 2 hours work, and then you then went, okay. And now I'm just going to have me time, and I'm walking in Clapham Common or Wandsworth Common, and all of a sudden you're like coming up with great ideas. And now I find it very inspiring for that to be an hour of your morning every day, as well as gym and cycling. Like I think the mental fitness and clarity that you get through exercise is really, really important and just keeps you fresh and like keeps your mind very fresh as well as physically trying to fight the battle of eating and drinking in your restaurants every day.
Absolutely.
But it is important, and I think managing to take that time out without really realizing that it's meditative is important.
And who, at your stage of the journey, who do you go to for counsel? Who do you get advice, guidance, support? Is it from sector? Is it outside of sector? Or who kind of inspires you?
I mean, it's been interesting. When you're successful, everyone in the sector wants to be your friend. When you're on your own struggling as an entrepreneur, very few people reached out. It was actually very disappointing. Um, and I could name you the ones that did, and they know who they are. I appreciated it very much, but the majority didn't. It's a tough sector in the sense that everybody's competitive and they're fighting for covers. Um, and it is disappointing. Nowadays, maybe it's changed or maybe it's my role, but there's 20, 30 really good guys out there and ladies out there who are really passionate about the sector and are very happy to share best practice. But prior to that, I would say it was cross-sector. So I used to do CEO lunches and dinners very regularly, and I would host them at and I'd be hosting someone from PE, someone from tech, someone from a lot from retail, actually,
Mm,
many from media. Um, but what I managed to create with them was basically a members club and a restaurant which was filled with like-minded individuals. So it was like business leaders in the heart of the city. And it was a great room where everybody knew each other. They'd cross the dining room floor and greet each other, and then they go sit down with their clients. And actually, it was a very inclusive, cool space. And I used to do a Friday social in M Victoria, where I'd invite them all down to have drinks in the wine bar. And again, like that became a sort of incubator of ideas and inspiration. I mean, one of the coolest people I met was a guy called William Kim. He was the CEO of All Saints at the time. He just became a great regular because he was a Gaucho regular. Then he moved across to M, and he was like always challenging me on thought and bringing out the best in me and introducing me to various people, and was a great guy. And many of the initiatives, including the Not for Sale
mm,
initiative that we did, which was basically adding 50p onto every steak, and that funded a reforestation program in Peru, and in doing so took people out of danger of modern day slavery and trafficking. That whole and we did Emmy's Not for Sale charity fundraisers for about 5 years, raised over £500,000 in doing so. That gave our people a great purpose, but it came from William and his introductions. So I would say there's definitely a sort of camaraderie of entrepreneurs who are all feeling quite lonely,
yeah.
and they share their fears and joys with each other. but equally your inspirations just come from cross-sector leaders. Well, I have to say recently, I was in a round table the other day with about a dozen restaurateurs, CEOs, and we were talking about AI, and actually it was a very, very cool event, and they'd chosen the good guys. So it was actually a pleasure to sort of see the successes of these people. I was in I didn't realize, but I was nominated for RMIs, and I was can't remember, Innovator of the Year, and I was with Marcus Veslev, um, Laura from Caravan, and Marcel, and these are three people where I've been like, those are the people I've admired and actually really enjoyed inspirational conversations with for the last couple of decades. And it's great to see them successful and be in that sort of little group of individuals. I was also nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award at that, which I found quite offensive. Far too young, Chris.
How did you respond to that? Did you win it?
No, that it was actually the bar awards, and given the fact I haven't run a bar ever in my life, but I've had bars attached. I've been to lots of wine bars. Maybe it was my financial contribution to wine bars over the decades, over my lifetime, that got me nominated. No, I went, but I didn't win.
Okay, nice.
The bridesmaids, never the bride.
I'm relieved you didn't. Coming on to that, the 50p thing as well, but I mean, it's through kind of like, the time that I've known you, there's always been lots of charity, community efforts that you've been involved with, like the Toast in the City, Only a Pavement Away, multiple kind of like other charities you've gotten involved with. Like, can you just walk us through some of them and which ones are really important to you and who you think's doing good work at the moment?
I think Only Pavement Away is a great place to start. I've done a CEO sleep out with them 3 or 4 times. We just did a charity fundraiser for hospitality rides in Angler, our Michelin-starred restaurant in South Place for them last Monday. I'm an ambassador for them. I think my father used to say to me a long time ago, like, for the grace of God, walk I, or something. But it was basically you're lucky, and Only a Pavement Away is the same philosophy that you're only 2 errors away from being homeless, and that could be just a mistake, bad fortune, but then you could end up homeless. So we could all end up in that position, and actually, I'm always sort of conscious of that. And when, as you've done the CEO sleep out as well,
Mm,
you realize how that would become a very downward spiral where you can't sleep, you're relying on alcohol, drugs, you're in fear of being beaten up, you're cold, like all of that combined must create a very depressing cycle that it must be incredibly difficult to get out of. And so for that charity to be basically identifying and grasping people before they're in that situation and giving them a platform for employment is fantastic. So it's very worthy. We did something with Terence Higgins Trust as well, which I
yep.
loved. My wife's a clinical nurse specialist in HIV, so it was a great. And again, I started it when I started my own business, so it felt great that actually she was connected to the business. They had a program called Work Positive, and brilliantly, they paid for 6 months of work experience, and then at the end of it, you had one of their clients that had built their confidence, had learned the business, hopefully got caught up in contagious enthusiasm for the business, and then you offered them a job and they joined. So we had numerous people join us then, and who are still there 10 years on, 11 years on, who were part of that scheme, who we've changed their life with. So I think anything where you're giving people who have fallen into bad habits or have been unlucky in life, and you give them an opportunity through the opportunities of hospitality, which is just amazing. It's one of the sort of few sectors where you can do this. Anyone can learn. If you have the right attitude, you can learn skill in hospitality. So I think if we have that platform, we should take great advantage of it. And Only a Pavement Away are fantastic at it, as were Terence Higgins Trust.
Absolutely. Now, it's the favorite question I'm asking as part of this interview series is because, like, yes, it's about positivity. Yes, it's about success, but I speak to, unfortunately, businesses every day that haven't done so well and perhaps aren't as fortunate or don't have the right backing or and speak to a lot of entrepreneurs who take this kind of like failure very personally. As someone who has been there, kind of like, yourself before, kind of like, can you tell us a bit about, what you would define as being your biggest failure and how you dealt with it?
I don't. I've been very lucky. When we joined and merged with Gaucho, um, I was like 6 months away from having no cash, and then we had an exit where the backers of Gaucho bought us and bought out all my investors. But it was always on a knife edge regarding cash flow. I think the hardest time at that point, and what had happened was, I think in 2016, there was like an economic downturn and the banks lost interest in the sector. We'd been promised something like £500,000 growth funding from NatWest. And it doesn't seem a lot of money now, but £250,000 of that was to bolster cash flow and working capital, and £250,000 of it was a contribution to opening a third site. And without notice, and we'd actually been performing ahead of budget and ahead of all of our forecasts. And they said, no, we're not doing it anymore. And it was on my birthday. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I've actually like got no idea what to do. The same happened the day after Brexit. It was like, I, I went for a walk with my wife. It's one of the occasions where she joined me first thing in the morning. And like, I've run out of ideas. I actually don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And that's the most terrifying thing. But if you've got people who are positive, have good advice, are there even just to sort of say, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Mm,
It gives you the support to sort of propel yourself on and find another gear that you never knew you had and stubbornly work your way through it. But I've been very fortunate. I think that my biggest failure was probably as an actor. And so I went to drama school when I was 18, came to London, went to drama school, uh, graduated. I was very lucky. I had great look. I was sort of train spotting look. Believe it or not, I had white spiky hair at the time. I looked like Johnny Lee Miller, a lot thinner. And then I worked as an actor for 3 years. And then the last year of that, I was in hospitality again. And I basically decided that was a career. But in that 3 years, I I worked fairly often. I was in a few movies and a few TV adverts, did some theatre. I was relatively successful. But at the end of it, when I decided to stop, I went, did I do everything I possibly could to be successful in that chapter of my life? And the answer was no. Like I'd continued being a student and expected it all to fall on my lap. So if I was going to an audition, I wouldn't have necessarily rehearsed as much as I should have. I hadn't researched who the director was. I hadn't watched their movies. Like I wasn't going to the gym. I was up against Vernon Kay a lot at that point, and Johnny Lee Miller again, Joaquin Phoenix. All these guys were in the gym all the time. And I never went to the gym. I just sort of, I was skinny and I didn't really think about it. And then Vernon would have his top off every occasion that you could possibly have. And I'd go to these auditions and I'd be like, but it didn't even occur to me. But when I finished, I was like really sad that I couldn't say I gave it my best shot. And since then, that's very much been my mantra. It's like, if I fail as an entrepreneur, if I fail as a GM, if I fail as an MD, if I fail as a CEO, I want to be able to go, I absolutely gave it everything. I couldn't have put more effort and energy into it. I applied myself 100%. So if it didn't work out, I'll have no regrets. I'll just be,
absolutely.
it wasn't meant to be. And I think to entrepreneurs, during COVID, I did a lot of work supporting other entrepreneurs. And if I've done a lot of mentoring. And if anyone reaches out to me, I'm very happy to talk to them because I understand how hard and lonely it is. But like, if you've applied everything you possibly can to your business and it hasn't worked, it wasn't meant to be, and you move on to another chapter. I mean, in America, they value failure more than success because
Yeah.
you've learned from those failures. So I think it's a very British thing to take that weight of responsibility so seriously.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Now, in terms of the future and the next 4 years of the plan, you've mentioned a little bit about international expansion. Is there something Japanese going on that I might have heard about?
Got two really exciting projects that we're working on. So Terence used to have a brand called Miyabi, which was in the Great Eastern Hotel before we successfully sold that hotel. And that brand doesn't exist anymore. So we brought back the IP for that, and we're looking at opening a Miyabi in the UK, hopefully this year. We're in negotiations on two sites at the moment where it would work incredibly well. So it's sort of a Zoomer plus in concept. And we're doing a lot of work with a really exciting chef on that at the moment. The other one is Orrery, where we used to have a star about 10 years ago, Chris Galvin.
Mm.
And it's sort of, again, they lost the star, or a new chef came in and they never regained it. And it sort of became a decent local restaurant, and lots of people have been there and gone, what an amazing dining room, and the food's great, but it deserves a star. And so we've just recruited, or at the start of the year, we recruited Pierre Mignotti, who was the exec chef at Alex Stilling's Cafe Royal. And he's joined us. He is one of the most talented young chefs in the UK today. Obviously, he achieved 2 stars with Alex, and he's creating an incredible menu at the moment and concept for us at Orrery. So it'll be Orrery by Pierre Minotti. And we're opening that next month. So very, very exciting. It has the aspirations of Michelin recognition. Who knows how much recognition we'll get. But we've set it up with very ambitiously, but with the intention that joins Angler and Craig Johnson, our chef there, as another Michelin accredited venue. And that's really important because you don't necessarily make a lot of money with Michelin restaurants. What you do is that attracts people to come and join you, gives career development plans. So like I started as a kitchen porter. I love the idea of someone starting as a kitchen porter, becoming a chef de partie, a sous chef, and then going, actually, I want to work in Côte d'Argent. It's like so premium French. And then they go, actually, what do I need to do to work in Angler or Orrery? And for us to be able to create our own stages so that they can get work experience in those restaurants. And the talent that we achieve with those restaurants will trickle down. The aspiration trickles up. And you know what perfection is. And you're trying to aspire to achieve that with your powerhouse brands, your heritage brands, and beyond. So for us to have a collection of restaurants that have two stars within them will be fantastic, and it'll be a new evolution of the brand.
Excellent. Now, for my final question, we're obviously an international recruitment agency. We do a lot of work kind of outside of the UK, and in Germany, they were facing kind of like quite a hostile situation to a hostile investor situation, etc., to the hospitality sector. The government basically gave them some VAT relief specifically for the hospitality sector, and literally in the past kind of 4 months, the amount of positivity which is being injected into the market just because the government did something positive to say we've got your back, the bad stuff might not be coming anymore, that kind of side of things has been absolutely day and night. What do you think that, either the sector, the government, I mean, God knows Kate Nichols does enough shouting about it, but what else do you think the sector can do or the government could do? Inject a bit more positivity into the sector and give people that confidence.
Rishi Sunak was fantastic when he was Chancellor in the pandemic and did Eat Out to help out. And you saw that the nation got behind restaurants and actually dined out. And it was a fantastic initiative. It was funny, I found the pandemic so positive because you could create, as a leader, you had a responsibility and you could create a sense of belonging, sense of security in your people. It showed who the good leaders were, because many of the restaurateurs out there who, let's not bother naming them, but they abandoned their teams and they let people go before furlough, and then all of a sudden furlough happened and they pulled them back. But they'd shown their true colors at that point, Hawksmoor. And then you had a situation where you had a sense of responsibility, as I say, but it was a real opportunity to retain your people, give them a sense of belonging. We went like super large on mental health support, physical support, training. We fed the NHS, which gave our people a purpose. We were sending goodie bags over to St. Thomas's Hospital. We were part of, I don't remember what it was called, Operation something or other. And again, we were helping homeless people. And we retained all of our staff. And what that meant was that as soon as we could open the restaurants, albeit al fresco or partial with limited seating,
Yeah.
we were fully staffed. And actually, that year with Gaucho, we had 31% growth on 19, and then that was 21 or 22, and then the next year we still had growth again. So compounded between 2019 and 23, I think we had 33% like-for-like growth.
Wow.
But people remembered we were doing food markets outside the restaurants when we weren't allowed to serve people. And people remembered our brands as like an authentically good guy brand, which had personality, purpose, moral compass. And our people did. We had no problem at all employing people from there on in.
Yeah.
And that was in part kickstarted by the government and their approach to furlough, and also the Eat Out to Help Out campaign, which was very successful for, I think, pretty much everyone in hospitality. And that's what you need government to be conscious of. And it seems to have been lost there. Um, this government, we're talking an awful lot about the purpose of a high street, the sense of community that restaurants and pubs bring. And it's very, very easy to address business rates and balance that with online businesses and just reform the whole thing. And actually, you'd have as much money going into the exchequer, but people would have a reason to eat out rather than eat in, or just buy food at a supermarket where you don't have VAT. The other trigger that they have is VAT, obviously, and if they reduce that, people would have a sense of value, and it would be like it would create a stimuli for economic boom. But unfortunately, it feels like even though the current government was saying they would do all of this 2 years ago, that they're not going to be doing it. So that creates an environment where we have to be more imaginative. We have to give better quality experience for our guests, provide a better quality product for them, and make it an incredible, memorable experience that has got different elements to it. It's experiential, it's sensory. It's just the magic of everything we do in hospitality that you can't create at home or buy on the internet. And then people will continue to appreciate us more and more and visit our restaurants for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Martin, I've really enjoyed having the conversation with you. Best of luck with everything that you're doing. I know you're absolutely going to smash it. And I think we'll do another one of these kind of like in a year's time, and you'll have
Another
Ex
chapter, hopefully, to talk about.
100%, but it definitely won't be dull and boring. So
I'm not sure we should keep the first bit in. Thanks,
That's
Christian.
right.